Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining here at Unapologetic Progressive. Once again, I am back with another video. We're going to talk about Trump's seemingly 180 on Russia and Ukraine. But first, we're going to talk about some stuff over the weekend. I just want to acknowledge the fact that some really tragic stuff took place in the U.S. over the weekend in North Carolina and in Michigan. At least those are the ones that made the news, right? Massive fire and shooting in Michigan for people at a church. And some people just out having a good time in an evening at a restaurant. Too many losses, too many losses. But these are at least two U.S. communities that are grieving because of yet another act of gun violence, seemingly senseless. But once I have more information on who the people were, where they stood politically, maybe even, but I don't think it really matters. All I know is that they're both military veterans of Iraq, Afghanistan, at least that time frame in the military. I know at least one of them were deployed. But once I have more evidence and more information, I'll bring it to you. Now, on to the topic of the story today. Now, we all know about the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia invaded them about 3 years ago or so, and it's been a bloodbath ever since, mostly committed by Russia. Russia's been indiscriminately bombing civilian apartment complexes, hospitals, schools, churches, things like that. That's what Vladimir Putin has been ordering for 3.5 years. During that time, Donald Trump has been very supportive of Russia, saying that Ukraine just needs to come to the negotiating table, that Ukraine needs to be willing to give up its land in a war that it's not losing. But the question is, why? Why all of a sudden is Trump deciding that he thinks Russia is in a bad spot and that he thinks Ukraine has a chance to win this war? And I'm not really sure what the cause is, but I think part of it has to do with the fact he is trying to get this Nobel Peace Prize. And I think his warning to Russia, basically, saying that Ukraine has a good chance to win this war with help from NATO. I think it's just trying to bring Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table. At the end of the day, I think Donald Trump's desire to possess a Nobel Peace Prize is far more important to him than his relationship with Vladimir Putin. Because the one thing that he's been mad about is that he never received one in his first term, and he wants one now. He's not going to get it over Israel the way things are going there. So Ukraine's a place for him to be able to do that. Because even if he's able to broker, some kind of armistice for a while, then that would put him with the ability to earn one of those possibly. I don't think he deserves one, but hey, if he's able to stop the war between Russia and Ukraine, more power to him, right? Like if he had been able to do it on day one, like he promised, like apparently he thought he was just going to be able to call his friend Vladimir and be like, "Hey Vlad, could you please, just stop the war?" If he had done that, or if he had stopped the Israel Hamas and the fighting in Gaza, he would have had one immediately. But he wasn't able to get that done. But I think that's what he's doing here. I saw a piece from MSNBC saying that maybe it's because he's growing tired of it or growing bored and wants to move on to something else. And that's also possible, but I think it's more his desire to solve this so he can earn his Nobel Peace Prize. So what's going on? Well, recently he put out a post on True Social talking about how Ukraine has a chance to win the war. And it seemed like he was directly talking to Vladimir Putin more than he was even to Ukraine. Now, apparently this announcement caught a bunch of people off guard. Russia, Vladimir Putin, Zelensky over in Ukraine, much of the world, his own staff were very confused. on the seeming 180 flip on what was going on. But I think he has a point. Ukraine does have a chance to win back its territory. Ukraine also, with the help of NATO, has a chance to take land from Russia. Because it wasn't that long ago that Ukraine did venture in and took over small areas of Russia, to show that they could. And then they went back to their borders. Because Ukraine's not in this to take land from Russia. What Ukraine wants is Russia to leave. And if attacking them on their soil is necessary, then that's what they'll do. I told people before this war happened that it's Russia instigating it. That Ukraine hasn't done anything. Anybody believing what Vladimir Putin had to say about it being run by Nazis, that Zelensky's a Nazi, there's no evidence of that. There's just not. There are organizations within Ukraine that tend to be that way, that tend to be, at least fascist in nature. But as Zelensky has pointed out, they have tried, and they've been working on getting their people in their military and getting the Nazis out of their military. Now, unfortunately, they did have to rely on an organization, a militia within Ukraine, who still had Nazis in their ranks in order to fight Russia. But to me, that just shows you that the nation came together to fight. That doesn't mean the government supports them. At the end of the day, I don't believe Russia has a chance to win this. I mean, look at how they fought. They were considered to be one of the top militaries in the world, and they can't even handle an invasion of a country that didn't have much of a military. They sent a bunch of people in to invade a country with a bunch of World War II era technology. Didn't give them enough fuel. Didn't give them enough rations to be able to survive. So bad to the point that a number of Russian troops defected to Ukraine and into Europe to get away from it. But this war hasn't just been bad for Ukraine. We know how it's been for Ukraine. It's also been terrible for the Russian people. And anybody in Russia that speaks out against the war, is arrested. I've seen numerous stories of different journalists or whatever being arrested because they didn't support Vladimir Putin's war. So I think in the end, Trump's change here is just a way for him to try to save face in a way, and also try to obtain a peace prize. And I think if he's able to broker a decent peace, a long-standing peace between Russia and Ukraine, with no strings attached for Ukraine, then I think he's going to be up for one. But here's my thought. The easiest way for this war to end is for Russia to go home. This isn't a war of Ukrainian aggression. This is a war of Russian aggression. And the way the war ends is for Russia to turn around and go home and leave the people of Ukraine alone. If they would just do that, there wouldn't be any fighting. But anyhow, that's what's been going on over there. Donald Trump seems to have changed his mind on whether or not he supports Russia and Ukraine. He seemingly said that Ukraine basically has the green light to win back their territory with the help of NATO. And he's also given more weapons to NATO for NATO to use or to send to Ukraine for their defense. So, all that said, all in all, I think this is Donald Trump trying to force Vladimir Putin back to the negotiating table. Whether it works or not, we'll see down the road. Because at this point, I believe Vladimir Putin is just trying to find a way to get any kind of win because he's wasted all this money, all these lives, and the people back home are not standing for it. Anyhow, I'll see you down the road. I hope you're having a great day.